Good afternoon, everybody. And I'm really excited here today to have the opportunity to talk about all things customer. Um, let's start with a truth that might make some uncomfortable, but I'm sure that you would admit that most organizations are still failing their customers. Experiences are slow, they're fragmented, frustrating. And in an era where AI is really reshaping expectations, relying on technology alone is simply not enough. AI alone won't save CX. So I'm Fran Southward, CEO of Auscontact. And as I said, really excited here today that I get to challenge the status quo with Lukas Carruthers, head of Zoom CX for APJ. Today, we've got this great opportunity to really explore why Zoom is entering the CX space and how AI should be used strategically to enhance, not replace, human connection, and what Australian organisations need to do to stay ahead in this new era of customer expectations. We're going to get to hear from Lukas. We're going to hear him share his personal passion for CX and all of the insights that he's gained from working with customers right across the region. So firstly, please join me in welcoming Lukas Carruthers. Lukas, thanks for joining me today.
Good afternoon, Fran, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm stoked to be here with you today to challenge the status quo in CX, a deep passion of mine. So I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
I love that. Let's get right into it. Lukas, you are incredibly passionate about CX. We know this. What has drawn you to join Zoom at a time when we are seeing CX expectations are unpredictably changing within the community?
Well, I think the unpredictable bit is actually one of the big reasons that I did join. I think Zoom has been redefining experiences, both. Really, they started on the meeting experience and then the employee experience, and they've been really challenging and redefining what it means to have an employee experience. So I was really interested in that. I've watched them very, very closely for a long time. But then all of the elements inside of their platform, they had everything there to create this incredible customer experience and to really, again, challenge the status quo, born in the cloud at the dawn of the AI revolution and all of this unpredictability in what was going to happen in CX. I thought, what a great time to come on board with Zoom and really disrupt the status quo, really start to think about how could we push away from the norms. And I think one of the things that I've noticed over my career, and I've been doing CX for about 25 years, giving away my age, friend, but about 25 years. And for the longest time, there's been all of these fragmented experiences. You said it straight up in your opening, the experiences are getting worse. And although technology, is outpacing, I've never seen it move so quickly in 18 months. But we've always had this fragmentation. And this fragmentation still exists today. I used to say we should ship the organizational chart to a customer and say, you figure out how to deal with us. And that still sort of exists today, right? So I think coming across the Zoom, all of the ingredients are here to be able to challenge the status quo, but also to break through those organizational fragments to be able to build this end-to-end customer experience that's not just in contact center, but is much, much broader than that. So that's really what drew me across into Zoom.
I love that. And you're right, the amount of fragmentation or silos that still exist, and they're just accepted as norm by our employees within big organizations. And I would say it's not just the customers that could solve it for you. In many instances, I'm pretty sure frontline agents could actually tell you what's not working and give you some real insights into how to resolve some of those things. So if we think about the market itself, and again, we've got a whole lot of organisations that really jumped into the AI space quite quickly. Not necessarily so many in Australia. We'll get to that a little bit later. If you asked senior leaders in organisations if they think they're delivering great customer experiences, I'm pretty sure they'll tell you they are. The question is, are they really? So where are businesses failing customers today? And you said it yourself, expectations of customers is changing exponentially. So where are businesses failing these customers and what trends are exposing these gaps?
It's a great question, and I think, Fran, it goes back to silos and fragmentation that we were talking about, both organizationally but also technology. And I think with AI coming on so rapidly in the last 18 months, it's exposing both of them at the same time. I think that this is really uh, the big disruption that we're seeing, where finally organizations are producing these beautiful experiences. Some are producing these beautiful experiences. A lot of these digital startups with digital native people sitting behind them are creating these joined up, mobile first, digital first, automated customer experiences. And customers only remember the last experience that they had, not with your organization, but the last one that they had. And that's what they base every interaction on from that point. Whereas if you're a bigger organization, like you said before, with lots of silos, lots of fragmentation, but you also have a technology stack which has been a voice first architecture, really. It was designed for IVR and for voice calls. And now we've been adding on these disparate solutions or acquiring these companies and trying to then piece together a contact center for modern use, and then tacking on AI everywhere, which I think is now, unfortunately, it is now creating even bigger silos and even bigger fragmentation. So I think that that's happening both from an organizational layer, but also from a technology layer. And I think we've never seen a time in history where data has been more important for AI, but also for CRM and ticketing systems, and the convergence that we're seeing between CCaaS vendors like Zoom CX and others, and CRM and ticketing organizations, and how closely they're starting to come together. There's another debate that we could have of where is the line blurring and is the line actually blurring? But I think we can both agree that they've never been closer together, and they rely on each other to create these really great experiences. So I think we're seeing it really across the chasm here. Customer expectations are going up. The fragmentation inside of organizations is getting bigger, and the technology with AI is also getting larger as well. But I think AI has also, boards have been saying to lots of organizations, where's our AI strategy and what are we doing on AI? So I see lots of organizations try and dip their toe in of AI, but not really think about it. Really, from a customer's point of view, they're rushing to get something out of the door to be differentiated. But what I'm not seeing is a lot of organizations taking a step back and thinking, well, what is the automation that I should be putting in place? Where are my customer journeys stuck? And to wheel this all around back to where we started on this question is, customers do think that they are providing great experiences to their customers, but most of the time that I go and dial their IVR or I do a digital journey to show them, actually that's not what's happening today. Now your metrics might be telling you, your average handle time is on you're on top of it. There might be abandonment rates that you're looking at. So the metrics might tell you that you're doing okay, but the actual experience itself is not. So I think organizations are experiencing this real divide and disconnect as the pace gets quicker on customer experience.
You raised a really good point there. I'm talking to a lot of senior execs and boards in organizations that are saying, Fran, we just want people to go and get that AI thing. And you're then leaving senior leaders having to retrofit without any really clear strategic roadmap. And probably the other thing we're seeing is a lack of optimization with current state. We talk about the change customer expectation. We talk about this real opportunity that is actually emerging in front of our eyes. Like daily, it's changing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But actually, we're often just picking up the processes that we've had in place for a really long time and dropping them into very cool, very new technology and wondering why it isn't changing things. So there's this, optimization component that I think is really missing. But yeah. I think you really nailed it with the almost that fear of missing out, but equally the fear of jumping in. It's kind of challenging some organizations, but it is resulting in this really jointed approach and no real strategy behind where are we heading and what does that then need to look like. Crazy times, right?
Yeah, we also say, Fran, the AI is not a feature.
Yes,
It's just not a feature, so you can't deploy AI. It's not.
correct.
It's not what.
Yeah, it's
Not
not a
what you.
thing.
It's not a thing, right? So I
Yeah,
think my advice to those businesses, and we do this all the time, is let's think about what you should automate. What are the things that you think that your customers would like to automate? Maybe you should ask them too, and then start to build an automation an automation strategy rather than an AI strategy. I think that's one of the key areas that we talk about all the time with our customers.
such good advice. So if you think about the CX market in general, it's pretty crowded. The space itself is quite crowded. If you think about Zoom's transition, why did Zoom decide to step in and really focus on this disruption? And why now?
Yeah, great question. Well, I think that we've answered some of it. Why now is definitely because it's changing at such a rapid rate.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. I think before I highlighted that Zoom's a lot more than meetings, and people don't realize that. There's a whole platform, not just CX, but across the chasm of employee experience and what we coin business services. So that's everything from webinars like we're on today, to revenue accelerator, our product for salespeople, our CX platform, and then everything in our workspace. So I think Zoom really, at the time of entering the market, which is about 3.5 years ago now, was we had everything that we needed, and we saw this disruption that was happening in front of our eyes. There was all of this fragmentation, also the experience for customers needed improvement, but for agents and supervisors and business stakeholders. We really thought about, or Zoom really thought about, how do we simplify not only the customer experience, but the agent experience, the supervisor experience, and the business experience to be able to deliver insights at speed to the organization, to be able to change experience journeys as well. So we really looked at it not just from should we just enter the CCaaS market? We see a little bit of disruption there. Was actually, well, we think that we could simplify this. We think that we could make this insightful for the businesses to be able to actually really drive change. And I think I said this before, we were born in the cloud at the dawn of the AI revolution. We had all of the pieces. We don't have any legacy tech debt, so we can go fast. So all of those pieces together, and we're disrupted before. We've disrupted the employee experience before. We know how disruption works. We know what simplicity helps with. So it was a natural progression for us to sit into the CX side. And as I said, we've also got the webinar that we're on today. We've got that business. We've got a sales revenue acceleration business as well. All of these areas actually fit in the customer journey. So not just CCaaS, but if you think about the life cycle of a customer, we're actually at each point inside of that journey as well. We're not just a point player inside of contact center either. So this joined up platform was really the reason and the disruption that we could see. So that was really one reason. AI, we could see how AI was going to change CX, and AI is native to our platform. We've been doing what you can see behind you and I is our backgrounds. This is AI at work right now, being able to do that. We've been doing AI for a really long time embedded into the platform. So it made sense. I think it made sense. It was a logical thing to do. However, like you said, there are so many players in this space right now, and they are increasing every single day. And my boss, Chris Morrissey, who's the global CX leader here at Zoom, he says we didn't enter this market to be the 16th CCaaS vendor, and we didn't. We did it to disrupt, and that's what we're really doing. One of our customers in Australia, for example, I won't name them, but one of our customers in Australia went from having a centralized 60-seat contact center that was all about customer interaction of sales and service, really. And they had a distributed network of over 350 locations, something around that. And we were able to transform the way that they thought about contact center to be distributed across all of those centers to get their customers closer to the locality. We're able to give insights across the entire network in real time. We're able to apply AI. We're able to reduce their cost to serve from a people point of view, but also from a customer point of view. So we really think that we can really differentiate service inside of this space, but also think differently from the traditional telephone architecture type CCaaS vendors. We're really thinking about service as a whole across the whole spectrum using AI at its core, and how can we think differently about the experience we're delivering across agents, supervisors, the business, and the customer.
You're right, though. That's the opportunity, isn't it? You come in with this fresh approach and fresh thinking. I think the other point you make there is that you've been using AI for a really long time. And I think there's still a real misconception within the environment, the community. AI is new. You guys have been using it for ages.
Yeah.
It is just about new iterations and new opportunities within it. And yeah, we won't even get started talking about the realms of data and what those opportunities present yet. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about customer expectations, we've already covered off the fact that AI is changing constantly and rapidly. But it's also, because it's a lived experience for our customers and consumers, their perception is changing. So they expect the service to be smarter, faster, more personal. They want it now. Are Australian organisations, do you think, keeping up with that? Or are they operating in their same rhythm that they always have, relying on the same patterns and rhythms that have always been as part of that customer experience landscape?
Yeah, I think with most things, I think it's somewhere in the middle, but it's probably more slanted towards the existing rhythm. And I think what organizations aren't thinking about right now are the signals that are coming from their customers to say, hey, we want something different. I want it to be personalized. I want it now. I want it on my terms. Things that we've been saying as consumers, you and I, Fran, have probably been the loudest at this. But as CX professionals, we've been asking for this for a long time, but consumers are asking for this. I think about the use of AI with my parents who are in their 70s at the moment, and they are right into AI. They know that they can ask that AI thing. They can ask it, for financial planning type things as well. Like they're like, okay, so here's how much money I've got for this trip to Italy. Can you design me an itinerary? The ways that they're using AI are evolving rapidly on the consumer side, more rapidly than a business could ever keep up with. I think in the way that they're doing it today, in that same rhythm. So I think the shift that needs to occur for businesses is from that rhythm of we're a bit slower, a bit more conservative, to changing the way that they bring services to market, or CX to market. So moving from this mindset of, okay, we really need to test and we really need to make sure that this is going to go in and be really robust, to this more agile type framework of, well, let's just test out on this cohort of users and offer them a chat service with agentic AI in it, and see what signals we get back from that test, and then maybe take it away and then test on another cohort of users. We really haven't done that as a CX community. We've waited and held. I remember doing web chat all the way, a decade ago, Fran, where we would have to make sure that it was absolutely perfect before we would release it. And that would take months to years. And in that time, we've lost all of these signals from our customers. So I think it's really how, it's not even being brave, Fran. I think it's being really sitting back again and creating a strategy of what can I automate to move into this new AI world. But all at the same time, and you said it beautifully before, we have to actually optimize what we have today. Let's think about, well, why are we doing that process that way today? Is it because the technology 10 years ago said that we had to? Is there an opportunity here for us to think about this quite differently, instead of my parents going into a travel agent a decade ago and asking, I've got $5,000, create me this, and it would take 4 or 5 weeks. They now ask AI and it brings it back within seconds. So there's this real shift that's going on between consumer expectation and the way that our organizations are deploying CX technology, or not even CX technology, Fran. It's actually CX services out to those consumers. So I think there's got to be this shift that happens from organizations to think about it differently, to test, learn, and really reiterate. And I think we talked about why did Zoom enter the market before, and that's really what we want to do, is be able to give you tools that you can make changes really, really quickly, but be informed by the results and the data of that change to then reiterate and then go, oh, well, that didn't work. How about we change this part of the flow? We see consumers drop off at this point. Let's go back and rethink about that and maybe test with a new service going out. So I think this test and refine is really where we need to get to as an organization. But that's incredibly hard when we've got silos within the organization. We went back to that right at the start. How do we make that shift when there are those silos? So it's a question I don't have the answer to, but silos versus how do we get services that are modern, contemporary, and agile out to our consumers, I think is the challenge there. I don't have the answer, but that's definitely the challenge.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And I think, with, your example there of your parents, mine are the same, means that because their expectations when they are utilizing tech that works well, they have much higher expectations across the board with services. So the levels of frustration and impatience actually is amplified like never before because they don't understand why it can work for something. And then for something else that they consider quite straightforward and quite, this shouldn't be hard, organizations aren't getting it right. So there's almost this chicken and egg element to what is driving that dissatisfaction with customers. And I'm sure you're probably talking to organizations that are feeling that, seeing people walk because of that level of dissatisfaction.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Fran, that you're exactly right around my parents wanting that up leveled experience. But what they also say to me, and millennials and other cohorts say this to me as well, is if I chat and then I call and the experience is different, why? I don't understand. You're the same organization and yet the experience is different. And we've all heard the stories of, well, I chatted to try and solve that problem and didn't get the answer that I wanted, so I called, or vice versa. If you can't provide a experience which is at least similar, it doesn't have to be identical, it needs to be at least similar, then people turn off your brand really quickly and do want to churn. I'm moving house at the moment, so I get to test a lot of CX and how people are going, and I can tell you it's not great. It's easier for me to churn from a brand than it is to actually on board with a brand. There's this experience revolution that we're going in at the moment. Yes, parents are starting to use things and up level, but we also don't have that consistency of experience across the organization. Again, back to fragmentation and silos.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really important thing for people to really consider. I know from my own personal experience, if I've tried everything already and you're going to make me wait for an hour on the phone, you lost me at 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. Again, I want to be able to find that phone number really easily as well. I don't want you to hide it from me because that to me is not a great experience. And don't pepper me with the messages that say, would you like to try the web? There's got to be some assumptions there that say, with that changing customer, there is a changing level of, tech savvy that means when they do call through, because again, it's only a very small proportion in any organization that is people calling because they choose to. I used to joke when I onboarded staff and I'd say, I promise you, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I really want to call insert organization text. They just don't do it. And if they do, it might be a very, very small fragment of an elderly community that want to talk to somebody. But actually, that's a far lower number than people give that credit to, right? Yeah. So I think that, there's this balance of, we've still got to make this digital experience, this automated experience seamless. We don't want people having to chop in and out of system, that silo. I can only get up to part X. Mm-hmm. But equally, when I need to call you, I want you to be there and I want that experience. As you say, I want it to be as seamless, but I also want it to be quick and effective. Mm-hmm. if I look at metrics that organizations are still using, we're still saying it's okay for percentages. I hate things like AHT and numbers like 80-20. It just means 20% of people are not getting great service. So, there's this real opportunity. It is almost that crossroad of how do we shift that internal thinking at the same time as we're optimizing and cleaning up some of those longer term journeys for customers.
And maybe a future webinar, Fran, we can talk about the changing metrics. And I completely agree with you. I think the way that we used to measure is definitely not the way that we should measure now. And how do we measure with humans and with AI bots now as well? But another topic for another day.
Definitely another one. I would love to pick your brain on that, because it's certainly something that we're not seeing many people shift quickly around. They default to kind of what's easy. Shifting gears, many organizations are actually held back. And I know you referenced earlier some of that complication of legacy systems. And I have been in many organizations where poor old frontline agents are shifting and toggling through 20 screens just to authenticate. So again, we've got organizations held back by that overcomplicated legacy CX system. How can simpler, more flexible technology transform both the customer and the employee experience? And we've touched a little bit on customer, but where are you seeing great wins in the Australian market across that?
Great question, though. We're seeing the ones that are great stories are the ones that are taking the bold step to optimize and to understand where their pain point is. And a lot of our team here at Zoom, our first introduction into a customer, we go and talk to them about where's your pain point right now? Like what's great about what you do right now? Where are your pain points, and what does the future look like? Where do you think it's going to go? So across that spectrum, it's the ones that are bold enough to go, well, yes, that process that I did create 3 years ago is not optimal for right now. So the ones that are thinking, I really need to take a step back, and everything that we've talked about today, how do I now get ahead of where CX is going? They're the great customers that we're seeing. However, I'm still seeing lots of conversations where I just want to move from that legacy platform to this new cloud platform, and I want it to be exactly the same. And those customers, while there's some of the legitimately, some are at a crossroads and they have to move really quickly and they can't break business process. What I find with those customers is then that they move much slower in actually taking that new leap. So customers that we're seeing super successful are thinking about, well, how do I redefine for this new era? Who are my cohorts that are contacting me? And a lot of organizations that do that piece of work will be surprised at actually the cohorts that are contacting them, whereas they thought one thing and actually the other is happening. And they're really, really looking across their customer journey and picking out the really successful ones, are picking out 5 or 6 journeys which are the most critical. It's about 80% of their traffic. They're starting to think about, well, how do I change that? And what does change management look like as well inside of that? Not change management in the technology point of view. How do I manage my consumer? How do I communicate to them? How do I slowly introduce that capability so that they get a feel for it, and then over time release more of that in a seamless way, so that they don't know that change is happening. It's just occurring over time. So the ones that I think are really successful are the ones that are taking that approach. But to take that approach, there's one thing that's really common across all of them, is that in those transformation meetings that we're going to, it's the head of marketing, it's the head of retail, it's the head of service, it's the head of contact center, and it's the head of partnerships, it's the somebody from sales. It's across the spectrum in the organization trying to break down those silos. So it warms my heart, friend, that we are seeing more and more people come to those meetings, that it is really cross-functional across the organization, wanting to participate, both in a physical sense and a digital sense. So people that work in stores or people that have a physical location and people that are solely in digital, and seeing how those two things can come together. So I'm really seeing Australian organizations that are bold enough to take that step as really the standouts. And the other thread that I would pull through those customers is that they don't want to automate everything. They are not saying to me, this AI thing, amazing, I want to get rid of all of my contact center staff, or I want to reduce my contact center staff by 30%. They're saying, how do I build this human connection? How do we build AI strategies that have a human element to it? How do I empower my humans with AI to produce better service? And to my parents calling in, they know their name, they know why they're calling, and they know that yesterday they had a web chat or an agentic voice bot, and they know the context of why that person's calling. I'm seeing all of these organizations that combine AI with the human element are the ones that are being really successful in thinking about it a little bit differently. And they really suit us, Fran. We're a bit, we lean into that really a lot, because Zoom, we're all about, connection first. We don't want this to be everything automated and AI bots running around. We want human connection as part of it. We've been a human connection platform for the longest time. As back to one of our original questions before, Fran, one of the reasons that I joined is because of that human element. We have been trying to connect humans, whether in meetings, webinars, phone calls, and now in CX, is really how do we connect humans to humans and have a great experience, and use AI to create superhumans to be able to produce incredible service. So I would say, Fran, the ones that are willing to step back and take a moment to reflect and then have a clear strategy on how to move forward with the broader business, they're the ones that are really making the strides. But we are seeing, if you are moving from on-prem to cloud and you want to keep the status quo because you're under pressure and you need to do it quickly, we're seeing upticks and really huge savings in things like AI-assisted agents. So just the AI, the very simplistic AI things of being able to summarize what the call was about or what the interaction was about, choosing a disposition or a wrap-up code, and then being able to get all of these insights through automated QM. So not just 1% of calls, but 100% of calls being monitored. So we're seeing wins like that, moving from an architectural to a modern platform. But it's really the ones that want to take a step back and really reassess the way that they're delivering service. They're the ones that are being most successful in our eyes.
I love that. And I think you touched on so many interesting points there. You talk about call drivers, and I cannot tell you the amount of organizations I'm talking to that will give me tactical or transactional reasons that people call them. Mm-hmm. Guess what, guys? That's actually not why they're calling you. They're calling you because they couldn't do it themselves, or something's impeding the services that they are expecting to receive. So there's this need to really dig under and sort of say, well, and what else? And what else? And I think we're starting to see some organizations do that well. Again, we talk about topics for another time. I say there's really only a few reasons people ever call any organization. And what we need to shift is actually to make it that organizations are suddenly in a position to talk to the people they want to be talking to. We look in the environment, we see vulnerability increasing. We see, organizations in the business of things like debt collection, etc. We want organizations freeing up capacity and having the skill and expertise to actually talk to the customers who aren't engaging, who actually they want to engage with. So we've got to make some space there somehow. But where you went there with the human touch, and, again, yes, there are often some time crunches around, out of service, something's about to be switched off, so they need to jump in with a technology, which means they can't do all of that heavy lifting around optimization or change. But where we fall over is that they then get the implementation done, all of the data migration happens, and then there's a team of people that go, right, hey, what's next? Where do we move to now? And for many organizations, they never come back. to really say, now, what is our plan? What is our opportunity? And where do we start? So I think that's a huge gap that we are still seeing. And then lastly, the point you made about that opportunity with the human side, right? What can we do to make super agents? What can we do to actually stop some of the misinformation within systems that actually skews data? And I would probably hazard a guess that a lot of organizations are struggling with the amount of data that is now available. And it's almost an easy option to just still use data the way they've used it, as opposed to really think about what does a mature data analytics function look like and what can it tell us? Because we all know contact centers don't drive calls. So you talked about those meetings, and every one of those people in the room, they're the ones that drive calls. So I always find it interesting when heads of contact center are sitting there with their neck on the chop, being told to, you got to drive these calls down. And I push back and I say, you need to build your narrative, because you're not driving them, you're servicing them. You are not actually driving them. So how do you create those conversations so they are strategic and effective, but equally that joint ownership? So it's exciting that you're saying you're seeing that happening, because I would say similarly, where organisations are getting this right and doing well is where there are multiple voices and a very much a shared sense of responsibility and accountability, but definitely an acceptance that campaigns and marketing and activities or inactivity is what actually drive calls.
Yeah, it's exciting. It is, and the 25 years that I've spent in this industry, you got the contact center manager, hopefully, but you got IT as well. Now we're seeing COOs, CFOs, head of retail. But we're seeing those people come, be interested, and how do we improve the CX across the space, not just in the contact center.
Love that. So if you think about Australian businesses, and we did touch on this earlier, Australia has been in a really interesting market. We've seen it right across the board. There's almost been this lag, not just with AI, but quite often with full global trends when it comes to change and shift. What do you see as the biggest gaps? And contra, what are those biggest opportunities for local organisations to really kind of step into the space and leap ahead, in your experience?
Yeah, well, I do this across the region, across Asia Pacific and Japan, and people really think that Japan is a bit of a laggard, that they're very traditional and very conservative. It's actually, they're pushing us a lot. They're doing video avatars at the moment to service remote communities all around Japan, which is a phenomenal use case. Yeah, and with this aging population that they've got, we're using our AI technology to interface with older generations that are walking into convenience stores plotted all around Japan. It's fascinating, but they're really pushing the boundaries around AI. In Southeast Asia, we see the same. In Thailand, is really an innovation hub around, especially at the moment around AI. We're seeing lots of people step in Malaysia and Singapore as well. We're seeing it as well. So lots of innovation and pushing us in lots of new areas. And then in Australia, we seem to have a stop-start sort of mentality. I think, Fran, is what I'm seeing is we rush at AI and then pull back because we're a little scared about the consequences of AI. And so a few rogue AI bots might stories into the news, and everyone retracts, and then everybody inches forward. But I think what I was talking about before is this mentality, this culture of shifting from I have to get it right to we're just going to test. And we're going to test on a cohort that is very targeted. Now, to do that, you need to be very targeted. You need to know your data. You need to know who's calling. You need to know the drivers for those calls too. But I think that's what's required from Australian businesses is to really be brave about, well, I don't have to get it 100% correct. It doesn't have to go to every cohort. I can test. And I can do that in a controlled manner if I understand, one, my customer, which you should anyway, Number two, what are the core drivers to come into the contact center? What are the big pain points that I've got? And then what do the customers want? I haven't seen an organization go out to their customer base and ask them what they want for a very long time. I'm a very critical consumer, as you would be as well, Fran. But no one's asked me what would I like to see. No brand that I do business with, except the really good ones, actually, Fran. There's an airline that I travel with almost every week. They ask me all the time, how do we do and what could I do better? And airlines, again, another whole topic. But that's one brand. There's a couple of others that I interact with that ask me all the time, what do we do well, what do we not do well, and how could we improve? So they're soliciting feedback. Apart from those two or three at the top end, I don't see organizations asking. So I think from an Australian context, I think testing and being, understanding what you want to test, understanding what the outcome is that you're trying to drive. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. We just need to go back and rethink about, well, what didn't work there, survey the users or survey our customers, and then go again, and then really learn and continue to iterate on that learning. Having to, like I was saying before, putting a project in that takes a year to deploy AI technology, you're going to be last to the race if you're going to do that. And that's what we're seeing in Japan, Thailand, Malaysia, is that they're willing to go and test. They're willing to go and do that thing. And if they get it wrong, they'll retract and then go again. So I think a bit of a shift in the Australian marketplace around the tolerance. I think Aussies are tolerant, actually. Service isn't getting any better. I think we've established that. So they're not going to get it horrifically wrong. I think just being brave and picking out cohorts to test with would be my advice to most Australian businesses at the moment.
I love that. And I think you're right, that fail fast mentality in a safe and well-governed environment. I think we're also seeing some reactive kind of spill when we see, breaches in the media. We hear about, what's not going well. And there's this reactionary kind of jump. And we've got to balance some of that, right? We've got to really think about where are those great, small and safe use case successes, and how do we build on them? So it's great that you're seeing organizations do that well.
Yep.
If you think about trust, and part of what means organizations are a little fearful is that the environment, it takes you a long time to build trust. It takes one interaction often to lose it all. So there is this cautionary approach, and I hear a lot of stories from organizations where they haven't realized the benefits that are outlined in business cases. So suddenly there's this internal trust, not just trust from customers. So given, the CX market, we talked about it before, it's full, it's busy, and there's lots of promises. And there's often perception of under delivery. I'm not going to say it's always under delivery. I think sometimes there's sometimes there's a sales conversation, there's then an implementation conversation and a business conversation. And it is like all three members of those different conversations are actually talking different languages. They might use the same words, but what it means to each of them is a really different thing. So you get to this post-implementation or post-deployment, and it's like, well, hang on a minute, that's not what I meant by that. So there's this need for like a meeting of the minds at the beginning, because I would say, some of the under-delivery is cause of that planning stage or that lack of meetings of the mind. How can organizations identify partners that will actually navigate that with them? So they'll, not only will they be a partner for the deployment, yes, I'll turn up and we'll do it for the next however many weeks, but I'm then going to come back in. I'm then going to look at it and I'm going to say, guys, you need some help here because that is not optimized. And we're going to build it into what we do with you because we want to be a partner for the long term. So how do we see that play out? And, what are you seeing in the market that's really making a difference from that lens of trust for organizations?
I like for so many reasons. So if I get carried away, cut me off, Fran. If we go, I said before that didn't want to be the 16th CCAS vendor. We want to be different, and that starts from the moment that my team engage with a potential customer. And what we do is really try and be really bespoke to every customer that we serve. Personalization. We're doing what we preach. So we usually talk about, well, who are the people that we need involved, and then understand what their care abouts are. And what we do in terms of that is then we map those across the organization that we're talking about, and we make sure that there's clarity on the metrics and the outcomes for each of those cohorts, because they are different. The language can be very similar. So what we do is we build, we call it a business value document that goes through and outlines each of the stakeholders, what they've told us, where they're looking to make a change, and what that change, what they're hoping that outcome will be. And then we do a series where we've got this down to a fine art, actually, using a lot of our internal AI, is to be able to turn those into measurement. So a very simple one would be the use of AI in reduction of average handle time. And we talked about average handle time before, and I don't really like it, but reduction in average handle time.
I get it. Yeah.
It's a thing, right? So if I could reduce your average handle time by 30%, then I can turn that into a number that you should realize as a business. So we do all of this documentation. That was a very basic example, but we do this across the business and the stakeholders, and we present it back and say, here's what you told us, and here's what we think. And then what a really beautiful thing happens, Fran, is they'll say, no, that's a bit high. Your assumption is a bit high there, or no, you're too low. You need to bring that up. And we do this really this balancing act over a week or a couple of weeks, where we all agree that that's what we're shooting for. So then we go and implement it, and we are partner only. So we have deployment partners, and we only do that at Zoom across the region, actually. So we know that deployment partners are the tip of the spear, like they are the people gluing all of this together. It's not just our technology; it takes a whole lot of ecosystem. So our partners go and deploy. And we also have customer success managers. And those customer success managers are past that document that we have done during that. And we said, so here's what we're shooting for. And we need you to optimize for that. And one of our CSMs, I was talking to our customer success managers, I was talking to her the other day, and she is creating these AI-driven reports that are taking all of the data out of their system, with their permission, Fran, taking all of the reports out of there. And then she's got these prompts that she's developed that are looking for signals. Are we on track to deliver what we said that we would? And now we're measuring it every month. And if we run into a roadblock, if there was one thing that we thought, oh, well, everyone agreed that part of the business should improve, but it's not, we then get that cohort back together and say, so this is what we're seeing. What did we miss? Or where do we need to move to? So we're doing that as part of our process with our customers to be long-term partners, because we want to change service in this country. And that's the way to measure it. And that's the way to keep our teams connected into the customer, but to make sure that they're successful, because we'll only be successful if they are successful. We're trying to transform a market. We're not trying to just be me too. So that becomes really important to us. So we've been doing that, working with our customers and our partners around that process for a really, really long time. And I think that is hugely important for people to understand. We need to do that level of inspection into our business and hold ourselves accountable as Zoom CX, but also deliver these brilliant outcomes. This is an ongoing it's an ongoing relationship that we're going to have with this customer for hopefully a really long time. And across my organization, I need my CSMs and my SEs, my partner people, all to be across what we do, what we promised, and what we're trying to transform. So I think a really long answer to that, Fran, is having a goal and making sure that we're aligned across all the business stakeholders, silos and fragmentation again, being aligned across that, and then using AI to be able to help us develop a strategy for that. So actually using AI that's in our platform to be able to say, so here's all of the data that we've got. How do we transform that into a measurable outcome? And then what are the steps that we need to take using the process between our customer, our partner, and ourselves to be able to build this map? Really, it's not a roadmap. I don't like roadmap. It's a map of what we're going to produce over the next 12, 24, 36 months. And here's the milestones along the way and how are we going against them. I think if we're going in with that mindset, adopting new technology and adopting services and actually moving the needle in transformation is the way that we're going to achieve that, not by doing things the same way that we did 4 or 5 years ago and then just trying to iterate on top of that with the newest AI thing. I think that the way that we're approaching that is the way to do mass transformation in a really short period of time as well, because we want it to be fast, we want it to be significant, and we want to iterate again. And really disrupt the market.
I love that. And I think, to be perfectly honest, there's not a lot that are focusing on that post-review to really say, did we get it right? Or where do we need to tweak? Where do we need to think? I love that using AI. Equally, kind of touched on something there. AI doesn't transform without the people transforming. So, your relationship managers getting in there and really utilizing the tool to give them the right part of the data and the lens and the view, so you then, as a group of humans, really get underneath and say, well, where did we miss this? Or what's the assumption we weren't quite right with? So, yeah, I love that. I think it's a really strong point of difference as well.
And one thing, sorry, Fran,
yeah.
one thing I know
No, you're right.
Pushing here, one thing that I love about that story about the CSM is that we're giving so much time back to that CSM that she can dedicate to other people and other customers. Whereas that report, we were talking about this the other day, would have taken 2.5, 3 days to produce manually, but we're doing it in minutes now. So it frees her up. It's the same with agents. This conversation about agents all the time. What if we gave those tools to the agent to be able to supercharge them so that they could spend more time on the phone being empathetic rather than trying to hang up because of average handle time?
And if you think about, just one last point with your customer service manager, relationship manager, example there, must be making a really big difference on the broader industry. Because again, what that person picks up with one customer, and I'm not talking, commercial in confidence data and intel, but I'm talking patterns and pitfalls and opportunities. That's not lost. At the end of that, they move on to another customer and they use that experience to actually say, here's a way you could jump from some of those challenges that others are seeing. So to me, that model actually makes a difference to the broader industry, as far as, because you touched on the importance of having that agility and that flex and getting the timing. I would imagine that having the insights that come out of that report, but equally the relationship managers that then transition to other customers, provides amazing value as far as not having those same problems repeated for future, regardless of customer.
Yeah, agree.
Love it. Okay, I know I could talk to you about this stuff all day, Lukas, and I know we're nearly at the end of our time. Future risks and opportunities. Like, this is something I am always asked within the industry. We hear some organisations talking about the fear of missing out. We've got others that have got the fear of jumping in. If organisations don't act now, what will they risk losing in the next 2 to 3 years as CX evolves in this ever-changing AI era? And I guess conversely, we just talked about leapfrogging competition. What are those bold moves? And you've probably covered on quite a few, particularly with that fail fast, think about cohorts, etc. But is there anything else that you could share that would actually help organisations think differently about jumping in a safe way, right?
Yeah, well, I think what they'll lose is customers. I think it's a pretty. I think it's more black and white than it's ever been before. If you're continuing to do service the way that you've done service even over the last 5 years, you're probably going to be surpassed by somebody, because organizations that we talk to every day are thinking about it, not necessarily acting like we talked about before. There's a fear of jumping in, a fear of missing out, somewhere in between those two things. We need a new acronym, I think. But it's somewhere in between those two things. But if you're not thinking about how am I going to change my CX in the next 6 to 12 months, then I think you're going to get left behind. So that's I think what's at stake. I think we've talked about a lot, fail fast, test with cohorts. But I think we touched on a piece here with the CSM story and using AI in your own business. I think if you're not using AI in your own business today, your personal productivity is going to fall behind. I know. I was saying this to my wife just the other day. I get so much more done in a day. I can't believe how much I get done in a day because of the AI layer that I'm using in my everyday life at Zoom. And our Zoom workplace across, it knows my meetings, it knows my chats, it knows my emails, it knows my calendar. It understands me intimately, that I actually have a give me my daily reflection. I do this every day at the end of the day, and it tells me what I did well, what I could focus on, and where I need to go tomorrow. And just that prompt at the end of the day helps me. But I get it to write documents for me. We just talked about this whole being able to show customers, here's what we agree and here's the outcome and here's how to measure it. I'm asking AI to do that for me as well. The amount of time that I'm saving, that I can have these conversations, these human-to-human conversations, even though it's virtual, I'm able to get out in customers and partners. I'm able to learn more quickly. So I think if you're sitting in CX in a organization right now, I would be thinking, how do I use it in my everyday life to give me more time to think about how I'm going to change CX in a very short time? Because I've never seen this industry, and Fran, you would know better than anybody, never seen this industry move faster than I have in the last 12 to 18 months. And it seems to be getting quicker, which is both terrifying and exciting all at the same time. But fail fast in implementing AI for your customers. Get your data in order, understand where your knowledge bases are. Who are your partners going to be? I love that you said that before. Who are your partners going to be for the future? CRMs, knowledge bases, CX or CCAS providers. But there's a whole other ecosystem that sits outside of that. Where does my data go? Really planning for the future around what does, if I do nothing today and I keep doing that for 6 months, where will I actually be? Like really starting to think about, where do I think that I will be? But what I would encourage them to do is really think about modern platforms that can move fast with their business, because that's what you're going to need. A lot of the reason that we go slow and we're waiting for perfection is because we're trying to integrate all of these disparate parts around this technology stack that we've got, plus all the silos that we talked about right at the end. Modern CCAS or modern CX, not just CCAS, but modern CX partners have got AI that is woven into everything that they do. Like I said before, we're born in the cloud at the dawn of the AI revolution. We've been using AI for a really long time. We move so quickly because of it, and that's just going to get quicker. So if you're thinking about leapfrogging your competition in 6 months, in 12 months, and you're still having to deal with integration and how do I bang those two things together to make it somewhat what I want, then I would say that you're going to lose too much time. And that's modern CX, born in the cloud, that is AI woven in from the ground up. That's the advantage here. You can go fast, take advantage of all of the new technology that's available, and really think about transforming your service in a really short period of time, not waiting for 6 or 12 months. Because I genuinely believe, Fran, if you are waiting 6 or 12 months to make a change, then you're probably waiting too long.
I would totally agree. And that is really good advice. I think probably the only thing I would add would be a customer strategy you came up with any more than 3 years ago needs to be revisited. They're changing far too quickly, and the opportunities are far too rich to kind of sit with where your thinking was, 3 years. Some organizations have still got 5 and 10-year-old strategies, which is scary. So Lucas, thank you. I know we've gone over time, and I really appreciate all that you have offered today. Again, I think we've said it throughout. We'll have to plan some more of these because I would love to dig down on a couple of other topics with you that are things that all organizations are grappling with. Not just with AI, but how do they use it to actually help them navigate some of those clunky old school thinking that has no place in a modern organization when you think about where the future can take us. Thank you so much. If you had one last message to leave for those listening today, what would it be?
Oh, putting me on the spot, Fran.
Definitely.
If you do nothing in the next 3 to 6 months, you're going to get left behind. So the time is now. The time is now to get moving on CX.
Love it. Thank you so much, and can't wait for the next of our sessions.
Awesome. Thank you for having me today, Fran. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.